and there was like nothing that was good on this car. Hey there, you're watching Car Stories with Matt. Well, today I wanted to actually tell a story about a car that my brother bought, and at the time, if I'm remembering right, he had actually crashed his '99 Suzuki Swift that he had driven for a couple of years. It was actually a really good car for him, but he actually went on a trip down to Arizona, and when he was down there, he got into a low-speed accident. He was in bumper-to-bumper traffic and actually rear-ended somebody, and it blew off the airbags and totaled out the car. So he ended up flying home, and he was borrowing a vehicle, so he was kind of between cars, and so his idea, he had actually had a really bad dealer experience when he bought the Suzuki, and so he wasn't anxious to run back to a car dealer and buy a car, so he said, I'm going to buy a beater. And so he was shopping for some beater vehicles, and I remember he looked at an old Ford truck and a few things, but he ended up going to look at this 1980 Chevy Malibu, and it was kind of in a sketchy area of town and stuff, and anyways, he goes to look at it, and it was a lady selling it actually, and she's like, oh yeah, it's a great car, I'd drive my kids anywhere in this car, and things like that, and so it needed a battery, I remember, but I think they boosted it and just started it, and I don't think he test drove it or anything, and if I remember right, it was like $900, which, if you just looked at the car, it wasn't a $900 car. It might have been a $400 car, and that was probably being generous. And then there was the driving characteristics of this car. To start with, he discovered shortly after taking ownership of it that only 2 of the 4 doors actually opened on it. I think the driver's door did open, but the front passenger door didn't open, and one of the back doors didn't open. And then he broke down halfway home, which was bad because he lived fairly close by himself. And so I remember he had to go buy a battery for it and put in it to get it the rest of the way home. And then he actually drove it to my parents' house, which was about an hour and a half away, which was a really daring move if you saw the car or even rode in it briefly. And I remember he took me, oh no, he actually let me drive it, and I remember I drove it around the block, and when you turned a corner there was so much play in the steering that it would start to like go too far on its own. You'd like turn it, but it would keep turning, and you'd have to like counter steer extra to compensate for the slack in the steering. And he was actually working part-time at this little garage in the neighboring town the previous summer, so he was good friends with them, so we actually drove it over there and put it up on their hoist and checked it over properly, and there was like nothing that was good on this car. It's like everything underneath was just had so much play in it. It was a small miracle that it was still holding together, and it just leaked oil from every orifice. When it was running, there was like clouds of smoke coming up out of the hood. I remember in traffic once somebody actually rolled down their window and asked him if his car was on fire, like literally the same thing that happened in Uncle Buck there. And he's like, no, just a little oil smoke, like literally the line from Uncle Buck there. And so he actually drove the car for a few weeks, amazingly. It had a 305 in it that really ran poorly, and I remember that was the other thing. The lady he bought it off of said, oh, you can bring it to my mechanic and he'll fix that up for you and he'll get it running nice and smooth for you. And so he brought it to this really shady little shop in the bad area of Saskatoon, and they put a different carburetor on it or something, but it ran even worse. And the funny part is, he didn't tell me exactly where this shop was, and later on I ended up having some dealings with them as well, and I bought a derelict old motorcycle off of them, but that's kind of another story. Anyways, yeah, he never did get that carburetor issue quite running right. I remember he worked on it himself, but I think the engine was pretty much toast on this car. And the funny part is, I remember when he brought it to the shop to get it fixed, like when they gave it back to him and he noticed it wasn't running right, like he went half a block and noticed it was running even worse, so he turned around and went back there to like demand his money back or get them to fix it properly. And during the time that he had driven the half block, they had locked up all the doors and disappeared from the place because they knew that they hadn't fixed the car properly, and they were just avoiding him at that point. So yeah, he tried working on it himself a bit after that, and ended up giving up on the car a few weeks later. It wasn't worth fixing, and I think he had it listed for sale, and that was kind of funny too, because I remember he had some really weird guy that was interested in buying it, and the guy was like some total nut for these 80s Malibus, and he had one already that he had made all these custom aluminum panels for the front of and stuff to try and lighten it up and make it more sporty and things like that. And so he like called my brother up and talked his ear off for like an hour about this Malibu, and he never did buy the car, but he wanted to just sit there and talk Malibus with my brother for like a couple hours. And I'm sure some of you, if you've sold cars, can identify you've probably run across people like that are just got too much time on their hands. But yeah, anyways, he parted ways with that, and I think he did end up going back and buying a vehicle from a dealer. I think he ended up, that was when he bought his 2002 Pontiac Sunfire, which of course didn't turn out to be a very good car either, but it was slightly more reliable and probably a lot more safe than that Malibu was. Thanks a lot for watching Matt Scratch and Car Stories with Matt. I do hope you enjoyed. Please like and subscribe for more, and have yourself a great day.